What's up guys, Noah here with Custom RC Mods, and if you guys have been following the channel for any length of time, you would know that I've recently built this FT guinea pig, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's an excellent plane. However, I've got these extra electronics laying around, and I thought it would only be fitting if I built the very plane that's designed around the inner dimensions of the cargo bay. That, of course, is the FT Punjet. And as you guys probably know, I like to go flying with friends very, very often, so this is going to be a lot of fun to be able to drop a plane and, of course, have two planes flying at the same time here. Probably with my buddy Kafka, and we're going to do some shenanigans, see how it goes. That's for a later video here. Today we're going to be focusing on getting the plane built, and that plane, of course, is the FT Punjet. It's a fold wing, little small jet here. It's only a sheet of foam, and it should be actually a very interesting and fast build. Now, this plane was actually the very first flight test plane that ever intrigued me. This is long before I ever got into building these planes, and I was just really interested in it. I printed off the plans and I tried to build it out of like cardstock or something like that. Didn't work, but now we actually get to go ahead and build it out of foam board and add proper electronics, and hopefully it's going to be a really good build. So I've got the plans right here, as you can see. Let's go ahead and talk electronics here now. And of course, being a plane that has the fold wings, and not only does it take servos for both of the elevons, but it also needs a servo for the folding wing mechanism. This one right here is a Flight Test 9-gram servo. It's well used, it's been in a few planes, and it's quite beat up. And this is the one that I plan to go ahead and use for that. And this is a 9-gram servo right here, so it's going to be a little bit more powerful than the 4.5-gram servos that I'm going to use for my control surfaces. But again, another thing that I'm kind of concerned about for this is that I don't have a double-ended control horn for it, so that could be an issue. I'm going to have to dig through my stash and see what I got. If not, I'll have to go ahead and use some other SG90 servo. But let's go ahead and talk about my other servos here. Again, the 4.5 grams that I'm going to be using for the control surfaces. This one is the Turnigy 1440A. This is the 4.4 gram actually. And these are great servos. They're rather inexpensive, and they really get the job done very nicely. I've used these with great success in my FT Mustang as well. So for my receiver selection here, I've got two options. Originally, I was planning on running this Radiomaster R88, which is a receiver I've been running to regularly on some of my builds. The Bronco, the Spitfire, the Super Bee have all had this receiver in there with pretty good look overall. However, I'm going to go ahead and run the LemonRx 6-channel diversity receiver instead for one main reason, and of course that is because this runs DSMX. Now, namely, my buddy Kafka runs a DX6E, so he's not going to be able to connect to the Radiomaster receiver because this runs FreeSky. So in the kind of effort to make sure both planes can be flown by both pilots running DSMX, no matter if you're running the Radiomaster TX16S or like a Spectrum transmitter, I'm going to go ahead and run this DSMX receiver. So I still need to find some antennas for it. They're just little micro UFL connectors, so I shouldn't have too hard of a time, but again, that's still an unknown on there as well. But LemonRx receiver on this plane. Now for my power system here, this is rather standard, but things are kind of getting interesting here. You can see I've got a new in package, ZTW 30 amp ESC, and I swear I use these ESCs on like every single plane. This very guinea pig here has two of them in there for each of the motors to be powered properly, so I'm going to be using it on this plane again. However, for a mini plane, these ESCs are kind of big, so we're going to see if I can cram this into the fuselage, and if not, I might be resorting to something else, but we're going to go ahead and plan to use this thing like so. Now for my motor here, I've got an Emax RS 2205 red bottom 2600 kV motor, and these were the motors I was actually planning on running in my Super Bee build. However, they were mismatched when they were sent to me, so I got a 2300 kV and a 2600 kV. I ended up buying another 2300 kV for that, and then I just have this 2600 kV I'm going to throw in the Punjet build. So yeah, that's about it for my electronic setup and this build overview so far overall. It's time to go ahead and get building, and I'm going to skip the time lapse for this build just because it's a rather quick and self-explanatory process. So in the effort of cutting down this video's length for your viewing convenience, we're just going to go ahead and head to when we have the build completed. Alright guys, so as you can see here, I finished up my FT Mini Punjet, and it only took a few hours, and there's really not a lot to say about this. I didn't make barely any modifications off the original design. There really isn't a lot to do here. It is a very purpose-built aircraft, and any modifications I would make would definitely skew the dimensions so it wouldn't fit in the cargo bay or maybe throw off that perfect medium that Peter Schiepel and the flight test team found for this to make it fly the best. So I went ahead, built it pretty much stock so that we wouldn't have too many issues with it. Let's go ahead and talk about the build more in depth now. And definitely the part where I struggled the most, which really wasn't that much at all once I kind of got the hang of what I was doing here, was this center servo that folds the wings. Now it's really important to get your push rod length just right here. I got it on the first try, but I found a tactic that was really helpful. You don't actually have to have your push rods be just the perfect length. It doesn't really matter that much. The one thing that you want to do is make sure to have your control horns out of the foam before installing your push rod. So install the push rod, then get on your control horns, and then you can actually use the tension of mounting the control horn to push the wing down when the servo horn is horizontal, just like this. So you guys who have never seen the insides of a Punjet probably don't understand what I just said, but if you guys are building one, you'll totally understand what I just meant there. Go ahead and push these in to create tension on the wings to make sure that they don't fold when the servo arm is fully extended. But other than that, the fold mechanism works great, and everything else is pretty much smooth. I mean, like I said, there's not a lot of changes that I thought I could make, and any of the complaints that I have with this plane can simply be justified just by saying, hey, this plane was made with certain kind of areas where it needed to be able to make certain criteria, things like that, like the size and the fuselage height and things like that. So overall, pretty simple. As you can see here, I've got a little nose weight in my hatch to obtain CG. So I've got my 3S 850 milliamp hour battery right there, all the way in the nose, and a little nut there. And the CG is right here on the push rod line, and as you can see, it's pretty good. Definitely we'll see when we start to fly it. I don't think there's any wind today, so I don't think that's going to be a huge factor. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this build turned out, and I think it's got the best chance it can get to fly really well. Now I've got a 5x4 prop on here. I was going to run the tri-blade race quad prop like I do on most of my minis. However, because it's going in the guinea pig, I don't think that tri-blade prop is going to obtain the proper clearance to actually fit in the guinea properly. So either way, I think I'm going to start with this, and we'll drop it out of the guinea a few times like this, and then we'll go ahead and move from there. We're not going to be dropping it out of the guinea in this video. I actually still have to modify the guinea pig just to cut out the extra cargo door space so that this thing will natively fit. So I'm not totally sure. We're going to go ahead and see there. But for now, let's go ahead and just get this thing ready to fly as is. So I'm going to go ahead and pop my hatch off right here, plug in the battery, turn on my radio here. Alright guys, so my camera just quit on me, which is unfortunate. However, there's a lot to cover left on this Punjet that this up-close angle is going to be beneficial for. So I just plugged in my battery here, and as you can see, I've got my Elevon control with these two 4.5 gram servos. I think they're going to be good for this application. And then moving on to my folding wing mechanism, again with the 9 gram right there in the center. I'm going to go ahead and fold it up with the switch on my radio. It gets about 90% of the way there, and then the rest of it you can just do with your hands and then shove it in the guinea like so. Once it comes out of the guinea, I can go ahead and unfold it like that. The wings are nice and stiff, and it's going to be hopefully a good option for releasing and hopefully holding strong when I'm flying the plane. So I'm not totally sure. We're going to definitely have to see how it does in flying and in practice, but we'll see. So overall, looking really good. I'm going to pop my hatch on just like this, and you'll see how that all looks up close just like that. The last thing we have to do is go ahead and fire up the motor and test out our throttle. Unfortunately, I don't have 3 hands. I got to hold the camera, operate the throttle, so I'm going to basically just hold my radio against it here and is a lot of power on this thing, even with a 5x4 prop. It's a nice big motor. This thing is designed to be run with an 1806 motor instead of that 2207, but having that larger motor on there is going to be nice for a little bit of extra torque and performance. But honestly, the KV is a little bit lower than you typically recommend, so on such a small prop, I guess there's not a lot of performance gain, but I guess we'll see once we're up in the air. Speaking of getting this thing up and flying, I think it's time to go ahead and take this thing out to the park for a maiden flight. Alright, so I just pulled up to the park here. I've got the Punjet in the passenger seat. It's time to go ahead and get this thing flown. There's really not a lot of wind here today, so I don't have a lot of concern in that respect. However, we just had a monsoon of a rainstorm last night, so oh my gosh. If we crash, it's gonna be a muddy one. That's the reality of it. So I really don't want to crash it. It's going to be an interesting flying experience for sure. Very short, stubby wings and not a very long wing chord. So you really got to know your stuff. I'm definitely lowering my rates here before I take it out, as well as just making sure I have all my bases covered, not doing too many high-speed passes right out of the gate. Yeah, we're gonna try to take as many variables out of this as we can. So either way, let's go ahead, get out there, and get to the flight. All right, guys, so as you can see here, I actually forgot tape to tape down my hatch, but modern problems require modern solutions, so I've got a Band-Aid out of my car's first aid kit, so that's hopefully gonna do the trick. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. If not, you'll see an epic hatch blowout, but here we are here. I'm gonna go ahead and do another CG test. Scene's right about where we want it. Good throws, nothing too spectacular, but that's right where we want it. I've dialed in some expo there as well. And then throttle, of course, nothing to it but to do it. Here we go. Holy cow, this thing is touchy, touchy, touchy. It flies, but not happily. Oh my gosh. I'm glad it flies. That's good. Definitely good expo. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. Yeah, it's a good fly. Oh, it's a handful for sure. It is a handful. I definitely see myself crashing this in the future. But I'm gonna bring it close here, hopefully do a close pass and show you this amazing roll rate that I have. Let's go around. Yeah, it is very touchy. Expo's your friend. And honestly, the power really isn't, it's not that fast. I mean, it's only a 5-inch prop. I think I can handle up to a 6x5. I have a 6x5 at home. This is a 5x4. But obviously, this is going to be the best option for actually going inside the Guinea. So we're going to go ahead and rock with this for a little bit, but definitely got a little bit of pep to it. I mean, like I said, not too crazy, but certainly plenty of power for full vertical. Definitely not an easy plane to fly by any stretch of the imagination. Trying to get her all trimmed out here. It's kind of hard to fly with one hand.
4 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some things to the bottom of the wings here just to make sure I can keep proper orientation. On a gloomy day like this, it's really hard to tell top from bottom, even with a black hatch on top. So, dude, the roll rate on this thing is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. All right, I'm gonna try to fold the wings. Uh-oh. Well, that was my attempt at folding the wings. Now they unfold. Oh my gosh. I fold the wings. I think that the tension on the servo or whatever, tension on the servo just would not allow me to unfold it. So hopefully there couldn't be that much damage. That was a pretty soft landing considering this is a very wet, oh no. No. Oh, we're on a swamp. Oh, please. Please be okay. Okay. Got a little bit of mud on the bottom, but as they say, best way to get the mud off is just to keep flying it. Oh my gosh. This thing is a handful to launch. I think it's just the torque of it.
3 minutes.
Still need some elevator trim. All right, there's something up here. I think my motor just came off. Alright guys, so as you can see here, I've got everything back now, and I actually think my radio turned off. So that's not the fault of the receiver to the best of my knowledge. That's actually just my radio. I might have actually pressed the button, but I'm not totally sure. All I know is when I looked down, it was off, which is kind of awkward there. But either way, this thing will fly again very easily. There's barely any wrinkles anywhere on it. Only ones that there are on these vertical stabilizers, which are kind of to be expected, honestly. So either way, we'll just have this thing back up and flying here in a future video. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please go ahead, be sure to leave a like and comment down below if you have questions. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this almost every single day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.